and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing another video where I look at a famous person out there in the public realm and analyze their presentation style. And today I'm looking at the one, the only Michelle Obama. This has been done countless times, but I couldn't not look at this amazing woman when doing this series because she is somebody who does it so well. I put her on a par with Steve Jobs. She is better, in my opinion. She's so authentic. She's the real deal. If you want to know how to do public speaking well, you need to look at how this woman does it. So enough about that. You already should know how amazing she is. Today I'm going to look at two presentations. I'm going to look at her first presentation back in 2008, and I'm also going to look at one of the latest presentations that I could find that was done this year. So enough talking, I'm going to get straight into it. The first video that I'm looking at is from the 2008 Democratic Convention. It's in 4:3. That's how old it is. I'm going to get straight into it. Incidentally, it is worth saying with this video, much the same as the first presentation that I looked at for Steve Jobs, and that video is here if you haven't seen it. Obviously, this audience is incredibly supportive, and that makes a huge difference when you're delivering a presentation versus presenting to, let's say, a business conference to a partner audience where you're not going to get that same kind of welcome. What she's saying there with her hands is, okay, trying to silence the audience. She gets really good at doing that later on in her career. In fact, if you look at the 2016 campaign, she does a really good job of managing to quieten the audience. And the reason she needs to do that is she needs to get started. Everything is on a time limit when it comes to events like this. That can be quite a pressure point if you can't silence the audience. It's hard. You see there, she wants to get started. It's very loud. We're getting the sound feed, incidentally, direct from the sound desk, but for her, this will be so loud. It's really hard because she wants to start big.
As you might imagine, for Barack, running for president is nothing compared to that first game of basketball with my brother Craig.
Nice start. So she's jumping straight from something that the audience have just seen. Immediately, what we're getting from her is very natural, very authentic, and in particular, very simple. Notice the simple language that she uses, and I'll make a point on that in a minute.
I can't tell you how much it means to have Craig and my mom here tonight.
Lovely, straight into all the feels, straight into talking about family, which the audience can all relate to and connect with. People often, in business in particular, are always looking for big stories to connect a powerful message to an audience. But what Michelle Obama does throughout a lot of her speeches is she'll use really simple stories about family. And one of the reasons she does that is because it connects to any audience member.
Like Craig, I can feel my dad looking down on us, just as I've felt his presence in every grace-filled moment of my life.
Notice this body language that she's using. She's talking, when she's talking about her family, she's like close to her heart. Everything is open palms. It's all very natural. This is very rehearsed though. Don't make the mistake of thinking this isn't rehearsed, because it is. And a lot of people say to me, well, I don't want to rehearse my presentation because I want it to look natural. Now, there are many opinions I have on that statement, but what I would say is this. Think about a dancer. So think about a ballerina who is learning a ballet for the first time. Now, the first time they do it, it's going to be a bit clunky, a bit awkward. By the 200th time they've done it in rehearsal, it will look completely natural. And that is the thing about public speaking. She will have taken this presentation, run it time again, over and over and over and over, so it feels really natural. I bet she hasn't learnt it verbatim, word for word, but she has learnt it off by heart. And that is the difference that rehearsal makes.
And at 6'6", I've often felt like Craig was looking down on me too, literally. But the truth is, both when we were kids and today,
lovely change of tone there. She got the joke there about her brother Craig being so tall. But the truth is, really nice change of tone to make what I bet will be an important point. I said at the start to think about how the simple use of language that she uses. I've read a lot about Michelle Obama and her preparation process, and what she did for her speeches was she would work with a scriptwriter, but she would dictate everything she wanted to say. So at the start of that process, she'd just get everything out that she wanted to say. Her scriptwriter would take that verbatim, what she was saying, into notes. What that allows her to do as a presenter is when she's working with somebody, that person is giving her content that is in her own voice. Most people, when it comes to a presentation, make the mistake of using language that they wouldn't normally use. They want to sound really clever. It never does. You need to keep it simple, do it well, just like Michelle does. And incidentally, I know I've made that comparison already, but it's exactly what Steve Jobs did as well.
Craig wasn't looking down on me. He was watching over me. And he has been there for me every step of the way since that clear day in February 19 months ago, when with little more than our faith in each other and a hunger for change, we joined my husband Barack Obama on the improbable journey that has led us to this moment.
Really nicely paced. Again, most people make the mistake in public speaking of just getting it all out really quickly. This is lovely. The use of language is simple. It's lovely. The tone that she's using, the body language that she's using relates to everything that she is saying. You get all the feels from this, as I've already said. And part of that is because the pace is really nice and slow, really nice and considered. It's giving the audience all the time to absorb everything she's saying.
But each of us comes here also by way of our own improbable journey. I come here tonight as a sister, blessed with a brother who is my mentor, my protector, and my lifelong friend.
That rule of three that I've talked about before, my mentor, my protector, my lifelong friend. Rule of three, it works through everything. Every single famous speech is littered with rules of three, and you can repeat the same word 3 times. You can do as Michelle has done there. Rule of three works brilliantly, and any presentation, business, whatever it is, you can add a rule of three into it.
And I come here as a wife who loves my husband and believes he will be an extraordinary president.
It is hard because what she's doing in this presentation is she's taking the audience on a journey. She wants to pump them up. They're already pretty pumped up, but she's trying to carry that energy. That is hard when you're presenting, when you're being interrupted by applause. The applause is great, like it's nothing better than feeling that applause from an audience. But it is quite hard for a presenter because you're taking them to a peak, they're excited, they agree, they're applauding with you, and then you've got to continue that even when you've taken a pause. So let's see how she does it.
And I come here.
And the way she does it is to raise her voice. And I come here. So she's quieter in that first part. They all got excited. She raises her voice to continue on that elevated journey. She wants to keep that energy up. You can see in this shot, incidentally, just how big this room is. It is huge. That noise will be deafening to her.
As a mom whose girls are the heart.
That repetition there, as a mum, she can still hear that audience noise. As a mum, she's repeating it. She wants to make sure that the audience hear every single word. Now, she knows the importance of every single word because she has rehearsed it so much.
Part of my heart and the center of my world. They're the first things I think about when I wake up in the morning and the last thing I think about before I go to bed at night.
Now, she will have in front of her auto cue. She probably got her script on that lectern as well as a just in case. And as I said, she knows this off by heart. And what she's doing with that huge room is bringing the audience in by not just looking to one spot. She's looking left, she's looking right. That's one way of taking a room like this that feels gargantuan and bringing the audience in, making it feel warmer. Warmer, smaller.
Their future and all our children's future is my stake in this election. And I come here as a daughter raised on the south side of Chicago by a father who was a blue-collar city worker and a mother who stayed at home with my brother and me. My mother's love has always been a sustaining force for our family. And one of my greatest joys is seeing her integrity, her compassion, her intelligence reflected in my daughters. My dad was our rock.
Sentences like that. So again, everything she's saying, the audience can relate to. My mum, my brother, my dad, all of this stuff. And yes, this is a speech at the Democratic Convention, but these are things that you can use in your presentations as well. I'm going to forward it on. Oh, actually, before I do that final sentence she said there, my dad was our rock. This is what I mean by lovely, simple sentence structure. She could have overcomplicated that no end, but she didn't. It's simple and it works. Every business pretty much overcomplicates what they say, but this is how to do it well. I'm going to continue on. I want to see the end of this presentation.
Who drove me and our new baby daughter home from the hospital 10 years ago this summer.
Okay, so we're continuing this theme towards the end of this presentation. Family, love, loyalty, all these lovely things that she's talking about. She started talking about her family. Now I'm guessing we've moved on and she's talking about her family with her husband and now her children. Again, all of this stuff that every single person watching can relate to.
Inching along at a snail's pace.
Lovely, inching along at a snail's pace. She's talking about that moment when they're bringing their first daughter back from hospital. Again, something that people can relate to, but it's almost storytelling in its style. The way that she's told that, you can imagine that moment even if you haven't lived it. You know, you've got this precious being and you're driving really slowly. Storytelling, it doesn't have to be an epic long story. It can literally be a sentence, and that is a perfect example of it.
Peering at us anxiously through the rearview mirror, feeling the whole weight of her future in his hands.
Now notice there was a slight slip up in what she said. I'll just rewind that because it was so tiny.
Anxiously through the rearview mirror.
Yeah, see, through the rear view mirror. It doesn't matter. But I wanted to point it out because it's the kind of thing that people can get really fixated on. I didn't say it right. That wasn't exactly how I wanted to say it. Don't worry, continue on, just like she has. If you make a big deal of a tiny little mistake, you'll lose the audience. Do what Michelle does, carry on. The audience won't notice it.
Feeling the whole weight of her future in his hands, determined to give her everything he'd struggled so hard for himself, determined to give her something he never had.
I call this the Obama pinch whenever I'm doing training with people. This hand movement here, they both use it a lot. Her husband tends to use it like this, she uses it like this, but it's really nice. It's a really nice way to make an important point when you're delivering a presentation.
The affirming embrace of a father's love. And as I tucked that little girl in, and her little sister into bed at night, you see, I think about how one day they'll have families of their own.
Now she knows she's getting to the end here. Important again to repeat the start of that sentence to make sure the audience hear it above all that noise.
And how one day they and your sons and daughters will tell their own children about what we did together in this election.
Again, bringing the audience in, it's like we're one. Oh, lovely.
They'll tell them how this time we listen to our hopes instead of our fears.
Lovely contrasting pair. We listen to our hopes instead of our fears. Again, you look through any famous speech and there's contrasting pairs.
How this time we decided to stop doubting and to start dreaming.
Doubting, dreaming again.
How this time in this great country where a girl from the south side of Chicago can go to college and law school, and the son of a single mother from Hawaii can go all the way to the White House.
Another contrasting pair, a girl from the south side of Chicago can go to college. Again, it's so simple, this. I honestly do feel there's no excuse why people can't use this in their own presentations. It's just understanding how it's done and not overcomplicating it. This is so simple in its structure, in its use of language. It is beautiful. This is how you do it. Watch as well how she's getting more emotionally invested in this because we're getting to the end, the crescendo of this presentation. As well, she did use another a rule of three there. How this time, how this time, how this time. So you can use rule of three in lots of different ways.
We committed ourselves to building
Note she's getting louder as well at the end of this.
the world as it should be. So tonight, in honor of my father's memory and my daughter's future.
Oh, lovely contrasting pair. My father's memory, my daughter's future. So simple, it is beautiful.
Out of gratitude for those whose triumphs we mark this week and those whose everyday sacrifices have brought us to
Triumphs, sacrifices.
this moment, let us devote ourselves to finishing their work. Let us work together to fulfill their hopes, and let's stand together to elect Barack Obama, President of the United States of America. Thank you.
Oh, she's so good. She's so good. As well, just tiny things, the thank you at the end. I haven't mentioned it yet, but it's worth mentioning it. The smiling as well. The authenticity that shines through is awesome. Let's take a look at a presentation that she did in 2021, this year.
It's a hard time, and everyone's feeling it in different ways.
Couple of things. 12 years later, everything has changed, the world has changed. This is now being presented to camera. Very difficult to do when you're sat down. Now she is awesome and I'm sure can pull it off. It is not something that I would generally recommend to most people. It's very difficult to do. One of the reasons she gets away with it is because she is so authentic, and authenticity is quite hard to achieve. So unless you are Michelle Obama, it's not something that I would recommend you do. Very quickly, this setup, let's just look at this, because so many presentations are being delivered virtually now. She has stuff in the background here. We can kind of see that Biden sign. We can see picture frames, which I'm sure have been put there for a reason. Every single element will be in place for a reason and would have been thought out in advance. But importantly, note that it's slightly blurred out. That means when I'm watching it as a viewer, my eye line is not looking at that picture thinking, who is that? I'm focused on her. Far too many people at the minute, when they're doing online presentations, have loads of crap behind them, and it can be really off-putting.
And I know a lot of folks are reluctant to tune into a political convention right now.
She has gone straight to the heart of how the audience are feeling. And it's a great thing to do when you're delivering a presentation. Really think about how your audience are feeling, and a way to get them on side is to say it up front. Right at the start here, she is saying to the audience, I know these times are hard. I know this is different.
Or to politics in general. Believe me, I get that.
Believe me, I get that. Again, what we're seeing here versus what we saw 12 years ago, simple sentence structure, authenticity, talking directly to the audience using everyday language.
But I am here tonight because I love this country with all my heart. And it pains me to see so many people hurting. I've met so many of you. I've heard your stories.
Because she's so authentic, because she's using that language, this is just drawing you in. That eye line is fixated on the lens, and that makes the audience feel like she is talking to them directly. So if I'm watching this at home on my own, I feel like she's talking to me. Now, she was using body language. You can kind of see her hands in those clips, but what it's doing is not so much delivering a performance now, it's just adding to the tone and the feeling of what she is saying. She is having to work hard here because the language that we're picking up from her body is really all in her face. Most people who deliver presentations to camera don't do that, which is why they are crap, monotone, and people want to switch off.
And through you, I have seen this country's promise. And thanks to so many who came before me, thanks to their toil and sweat and blood, I've been able to live that promise myself. That's the story of America. All those folks who sacrificed and overcame so much in their own times because they wanted something more.
So again, there we're seeing that body language, just picking up on something there. She's saying you to the audience. Now, she could have been pointed at them, but this is a really nice thing to do instead. That always comes across a little bit aggressive. So you, all this nice stuff that she's doing, again, just drawing the audience in. She's just better and better and better as the time has gone on. I just think she's just awesome.
Something better for their kids. There's a lot of beauty in that story.
Again, that short sentence. There's a lot of beauty in that story. She could have used loads of words, filler words, made that really long and elaborate. Lovely, again, sentence structure, brilliant.
There's a lot of pain in it too. A lot of struggle and injustice and work left to do. And who we choose as our president in this election will determine whether or not we honor that struggle and chip away at that injustice and keep alive the very possibility of finishing that work.
Lovely, like everything she's doing here, she will have worked with a coach obviously on this. Probably not a coach at this point, but it will be her script writer, her team. She will have done this presentation multiple times. And again, as I said at the start of this video, she will have learnt it off by heart, because by doing that, she can add all of her authenticity, what she feels about this content, bringing that to the table, drawing the audience in. It's so good. It's so believable. It's brilliant.
I am one of a handful of people living today who have seen firsthand the immense weight and awesome power of the presidency. And let me once again tell you this.
So lovely in terms of pace, beautifully done, lovely and slow, considered. Again, allowing the audience a moment to take all of this on board.
The job is hard.
Again, so simple. The job is hard. She is talking about being the president of America. A lot of people would have taken that and created, I don't know, a whole speech about it. And all she's saying is, the job is hard. I love it.
It requires clear-headed judgment, a mastery of complex and competing issues, a devotion to facts and history, a moral compass, and an ability to listen, and an abiding belief that each of the 330 million lives in this country has meaning and worth.
Beautiful. Oh, it's just gorgeous, this delivery. Very quickly, there was an edit point there where we cut from one frame to another. This is pre-recorded. I'll say that again, this is pre-recorded. The reason I repeat that is I have no idea why most CEOs, most managers, most people in business insist at the moment of doing virtual events or messages to the audience live. When Michelle Obama decides to pre-record, you should pre-record too. It makes such a difference. It makes everything so much better. Why put that added pressure on yourself?
A president's words have the power to move markets. They can start wars or broker peace.
Lovely. I mean, now she's going to get into a piece where obviously she's talking about President Trump. I want to forward this on a bit.
So many of you are already going that extra mile. You're mustering up unimaginable courage.
Sorry, mate.
You're mustering up unimaginable courage to put on those scrubs and give our loved ones a fighting chance.
Talking obviously here about first responders, talking about the plague. Again, talking directly to the people about what it is that they're feeling.
Even when you're anxious, you're delivering those packages, stocking those shelves, and doing all that essential work.
Just look at her face. Her face is doing so much work here. It makes such a difference when you're delivering to camera.
Works so that all of us can keep moving forward.
Importantly, she believes, incidentally, in what she's saying. These are her words. There's so much passion in this delivery that you can't help but watch and listen to it.
Even when it all feels so overwhelming.
Again, like look at how well her face is working with what she's saying. That look up there. Now, all of these things happen because she has rehearsed this so much. She will know at that point that she is going to do that, okay? And then it just happens naturally because she's done it so many times.
Working parents are somehow piecing it all together without childcare. Teachers are getting creative so that our kids can still learn and grow. Our young people are desperately fighting to pursue their dreams. And when the horrors of systemic racism shook our country and our consciences, millions of Americans of every age, every background rose up to march for each other.
It's almost musical in the way she's delivering that there. She's taking us, as she did 12 years before, taking us up, 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 up towards the end.
Crying out for justice and progress. This is who we still are.
Oh God, there's so much passion in it. And she sat down. That is really hard to do.
Compassionate, resilient, decent people.
3.
Whose fortunes are bound up with one another. And it is well past time for our leaders to once again reflect our truth. So, it is up to us to add our voices and our votes to the chorus of history, echoing heroes like John Lewis, who said, "When you see something that is not right, you must say something."
Beautifully delivered quote. She's quoting somebody else, obviously there, lovely and slow. The diction. If you're ever quoting somebody, take the time to deliver it. It has so much impact, in particular if it's a hard-hitting quote.
You must do something. That is the truest form of empathy. Not just feeling, but doing. Not just for ourselves or our kids, but for everyone.
Contrasting pairs, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. Again, very similar in terms of some of the tools that she's using from 12 years before.
For all our kids. And if we want to keep the possibility of progress alive in our time, if we want to be able to look our children in the eye after this election, we have got to reassert our place in American history. And we have got to do everything we can to elect my friend Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. Thank you all.
The thank you, like 12 years before, ending with a thank you.
God bless.
God bless. Oh, lovely. So there, 2 presentations, 12 years apart. Don't underestimate, as I said, how hard she has worked in that second presentation where she sat down. It is incredibly hard to deliver content like that. But she's awesome. She's the master. She does it so well. Look at her presentations on stage, on panels. Notice how she responds to audiences differently depending on who her audience is. She's incredibly good at drawing people in, whether she's in an auditorium of thousands or sitting one-to-one. I think she's the master. I think she is incredible. I hope you found that video useful. Please do let me know in the comments below who you would like me to focus on next, because all of the people that I'm looking at are people that you have asked me to analyze. That's it for this week. Please do subscribe to this video. I forgot to say that. I will see you next week.